Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank everybody for coming out on this beautiful Saturday morning. We're going to call for the approval of today's agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The agenda has been approved. We have an excused absence. Director Rakowski cannot make it today, and she has an excused absence today. We're going to go for the approval of the minutes from February 22nd's regular meeting. Do I have a motion? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. March 20th, 2025 special meeting. Do I have a motion? A second? All in favor?
Aye.
The approval of the minutes has taken place. We have Commissioner Bertino here today, and I'm going to turn the podium over to Commissioner Bertino to talk to us about the water and wastewater issues currently going on at the county that will affect all of us. Commissioner Bertino?
Good morning. Can you all hear me? I have very low self-esteem, so I need to project. So you let me know if there's an issue. I want to thank the board for having us here. Commissioner Bunning and I feel very strongly about this particular issue. We had the opportunity to speak to the board last week about this issue, and they felt and were kind enough to invite us here today at the meeting so that we can provide information to the community. Before the meeting started, I passed out to the board and legal counsel, our general manager, some information. And with the president's permission, I'd like to provide information as well to the audience.
Absolutely, Jeff.
Okay, thank you. Now, I tried to make as many copies as I could, not knowing how many people were here. I put this together early this morning, and an hour ago, I was in my pajamas and bathrobe running around trying to staple these. So, if there's more information that's needed, or if you don't get a copy, just let me know, and I'll be happy to email it to you. So, we'll hand this around. I don't want to understate the situation that we're facing. Our community, the Ocean Pines service area, is in the crosshairs of a very unfair proposal that would require ratepayers, 10,000 ratepayers within the Ocean Pines service area, to pay unfairly the debts that were accrued by other service areas within the county. So just a very brief background. Within Worcester County, there are 11 service areas, of which Ocean Pines is one. Within those 11 service area, there are 18,000 ratepayers. Within the Ocean Pines service area, there are 10,000 ratepayers. We are 56% of the total ratepayer population. Let that sink in for a minute, because that number is important. Now, I'm going to give you a very brief history of a couple of milestones over the past few years. In 2017 or 2018, Commissioner Bunning received a telephone call from a resident saying that there was a tanker that was unloading effluent into the Ocean Pines system. Commissioner Bunning investigated that and came to find out that the effluent was being transferred from Riddle Farm to the Ocean Pines service area for disposal. Upon further investigation, he and I learned that this had been going on for a number of years. The reason for that was, unbeknownst to the county commissioners and the county administration, the Riddle Farm plant was not operating the way it was supposed to, despite the fact that a couple of years before we had refurbished or changed the filtration system, which cost us a couple $1 million, if I recall. Is that correct, Jimmy? Yeah. Nobody told us. And what we did find out was that we were spending, Riddle Farm area was paying upwards of $700,000 a year to pump and haul effluent to Ocean Pine service area. Upon further investigation, I learned, and Commissioner Bunning learned, that Ocean Pine service area was not being compensated for that effluent. So we were those of us in this ratepayer area were bearing the brunt of that cost. That changed very quickly, and we are now being compensated. But the concern is that over the years, debt has accrued, especially in the Riddle Farm service area, upwards of $5-6 million. That's one piece of it. This is very complicated. I'm going to give it to you as straight a line as I can. In September of last year, Commissioner Bunning and I were made aware by county administration that there was soon to be a significant shortfall in the enterprise funds, several funds, like about 6 service areas. And those service areas are shown in the handout that I gave you. We learned that we had a $9.1 million deficit. Now, I got to tell you, anybody in this room, and especially the board, if you were hit with a $9 million deficit that you were not aware of, I think your first exclamation would not be the most appropriate with children around. And it certainly wasn't when Commissioner Bunning and I found out about it. The reason for this was because of financial mismanagement within county government managing the enterprise funds. What we learned the commissioners learned in September, was that for many, many years, individuals within the finance department who managed the enterprise funds were transferring money on paper from one fund to another where funds did not exist. And for a number of years, that worked because the service areas were providing enough revenue that you could cover those transfers. But I just mentioned to you about Riddle Farm and the pump and haul costs. Well, they drained theirs down real quick. So money was being transferred from one fund to another, most specifically West Ocean City, which had a tremendous surplus or reserve fund, drained it dry. In place of the funds that were there were basically a sticky note with an IOU that said, we owe you this money, but the money did not exist. So, in January of this year, the county commissioners unanimously approved the transfer from the general fund to the enterprise funds of about $9.1 million, of which $2.7 million was given to the Riddle Farm service area as a grant, because the ratepayers in Riddle Farm had nothing to do with the stupidity that occurred. And we felt unanimously that the general fund should cover the cost. The remaining $6 million was a loan to the service areas that are shown here, and I'll just read them out. And you can see this on page 3, okay? And if you go over to fiscal 27, you will see that Edgewater Acres, the Landings, Mystic Harbor, Newark, and Riddle Farm were the areas to which that loan was given. When we approved that loan in January to begin repayment in fiscal 27, there was the expectation that those service areas would be responsible for the repayment of that loan. Come forward to March 18th of this year, and a plan was put forward that all service areas, all ratepayers within all the service areas will pay for the repayment of the loan. Now, it gets a little more complicated. That's fiscal 27. In fiscal 26, we have a $2.1 million deficit, of which Ocean Pines is responsible for $116,000 out of $2.1 million. And on the meeting of the 18th, and I misspoke earlier, on the meeting of the 18th, the plan was put forward that we would all pay for that. So instead of our bill going up maybe $1 or $3, it'll go up per quarter. It'll go up $32 a quarter. Now you tell me how that's fair. I don't think it is. Now this is just a plan. It's just a proposal. Not that the commissioners have not decided on anything, but this is the plan that was put forward and has been put forward for the public hearing that'll take place on May 6th. This is the only plan that was put forward. So this is the plan that we need to react to as a community, as ratepayers, and quite truthfully, anybody who values fairness. My concern and Commissioner Bunning's concern is this. One is this is a stupid plan that we should not be responsible for repaying fully. We didn't cause the problem. We shouldn't pay for it. And at the earlier meeting when we met with the board, board member Steve Jacobs, I thought, made a fantastic analogy. And Steve, if I screw this up, forgive me. But if your neighbor builds a house and takes a loan out, I don't think the neighbor should be responsible for repaying the mortgage. Do you? Do you? I don't. And I think that's what's happening here. As I said, this is just a proposal, but a couple of some background as well. Why this really concerns Commissioner Bunning and me. One is that we had a situation in our own community a couple of years ago when we had a rake foul up our effluent processing. A rake head. Why? Because an employee dropped a rake in there and never told anybody. And over a 9-month or so period, it really fouled things up, no pun intended. Well, as a result, the emissions from the plant in the river were above regulatory thresholds, and it required us to pay the Bay Restoration Fund, which I think was about $35 a quarter that was on our bill. Commissioner Bunning and I fought strenuously that the general fund should pay that, not the ratepayers, because after all, it wasn't a ratepayer who dropped a rake in there. It was the county, a county employee, quite truthfully, who didn't have the guts to own up to a mistake, and it cost us money. That's a whole other issue, and despite our best efforts, we could never find who the employee was. Anyway, but we were told, Commissioner Bunning and I were told, that it's an Ocean Pines problem, you deal with it, and it came out of our reserve funds, which was, I think, about 517, something like that, right, Jack? Yeah. $500,000 plus. We paid for that. Okay. We paid for it. Lewis Road is an area that we are putting in sewage and in an area to get them off septic systems, which is a worthwhile project. We have applied for and received grants from the USDA and others to pay for this. In 2021, a plan was put forward, a motion was made by Commissioner Purnell, that the residents along that will be serviced there should not have to pay for the hookup to that service area. So we're treating one service area unfairly than another. Commissioner Bunning and I again fought strenuously about that because it's unfair. I don't know about you, but when I built my house in Ocean Pines, I think at that time the hookup was about $3,500. I had to pay for that. How many of you had to pay for that? Yeah, all of us. All of us. Well, Commissioner Bunning and I lost, and the Lewis Road service area was given this money, each one of those ratepayers, $3,500, or whatever the hookup would be. I'm just using that as a number, free of charge. Why? The reason was given because they waited so long. Well, they got a gift from the county. So, move forward a little bit further. At a January meeting, a motion was made to create a subcommittee to look into this issue. Now, I mentioned to you earlier that Ocean Pines is the largest service area with 10,000 ratepayers. A motion was made by Commissioner Fiore to set up this committee to include himself, Commissioner Elder, and Commissioner Matresic in Ocean, who's a representative from Ocean City, who has no responsibility or a service area in his area. We were not even included in that motion, which tells me and concerns me that we were going to get screwed. Now, Commissioner Bunning and I, again, raised our voices in objection, and ultimately Commissioner Bunning was put on that committee. I learned subsequently, because it just didn't make sense to me, why in God's name would Ocean Pines not be included in that committee? Well, I come to find out that Commissioner Fiore was concerned because if I were on that committee, I'd be saying no to any plan that came forward that required Ocean Pines. Pardon me? No, Commissioner Matresic stepped down. He was not on that committee. He recognized, rightly, following a conversation with Commissioner Bunning, that Ocean City really has no horse in this race. And at that meeting, in real time, when the motion was being considered, Commissioner Matresic stepped back. But as I say, there is a bias against our community. And as I say, I learned subsequently that Commissioner Fiore made comments to the fact that if I were on that committee, that we would say no. I would say no. And on that, Commissioner Fiore and I are correct. I would say no. And so did Commissioner Bunning. So come March 18th, we have this proposal that comes forward, and lo and behold, Ocean Pines is going to be held accountable to repay debt service that we had absolutely nothing to do with. If any of you watched that meeting, you may have seen the exchange that occurred between myself and Commissioner Bunning and the other commissioners. And you may have also heard Commissioner Elder say that it really wasn't all that much money and Ocean Pines should just suck it up. Now, I said suck up. He did not use those words, but that's basically what the intent was. I don't want to misquote him. That's not right. That's not right. So, as a result, I'm here today because, ladies and gentlemen, this is wrong on so many different levels. We have seen where Ocean Pines has not been given the courtesy of reimbursement from the general fund when we had a rake fall into the plant. Why? Because they said we can absorb that cost. Oh, we did. Yeah, we did. There's another part of this story, and I'll share this with you very quickly. The Maryland Department of Environment were the ones that imposed the fee. And we took the rake head to the secretary and laid it on his desk, asking for a reprieve from this because it wasn't our fault. Well, the state did not see our way of thinking. But we did it. Anyway, look, Ocean Pines has been kicked in the backside on this. We have seen other service areas where the users have gotten free hookups to the tune of about $3,500 a piece. We have seen the fact that Ocean Pines, when we've had the situation with the rake, we were not compensated. We have given, and Commissioner Bunning and I were with the unanimous vote to provide Glen Riddle that grant, because why? They were not responsible. Yet here we are today with the only plan that's put forward is Ocean Pines ratepayers are going to have to pay for this. It's wrong. So I have prepared today, Commissioner Bunning and I have prepared a handout, which you have. On page 2, it gives the problem, the who, what, where, and why, the impact on us as ratepayers, the financial information, and on the back, most importantly, what you can do and some important dates for you to be mindful of. Commissioner Bunning and I will be hosting a town meeting at the Ocean Pines Library on April 23rd. To discuss this, we will have appropriate county staff there to hopefully answer questions. We have the public hearing on Tuesday, May 6th. And what can you do? Well, I've given you what you can do, where to the contact information, and Elaine, you had said that you're already getting some feedback from the community, which is great, but please forward it on to the commissioners. Please write letters to the editor. The emails are here. And I have Commissioner Bunnings and my contact information. This is an awful lot to absorb on a subject that I admit is complicated, nuanced, but strip all that away. Ocean Pines, none of the service areas who have not had any contribution to this debt should be held accountable for the repayment of the debt. Just strip it down. Don't go into the weeds with how much it is or whatever. This is wrong. So, I want to thank the board. You can tell I'm rather ambiguous about this whole topic, but I want to thank the board, Mr. President. Thank you for giving us the time. I don't know if you want to, if there's an opportunity for questions, you just let me know.
Commissioner Bertino, I want to recognize Director Farr. He has a question for you.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. The amount on the accounting side that was an error was how much again? How many millions?
9.1.
All right, so 9.1, and my colleague, Director Heebner, brought it up at the last meeting. And I just wanted our residents to understand that nobody in that finance department was held accountable for this error. Nobody was fired or terminated for this huge accounting error that Commissioner Bettino has pointed out that we may be responsible in part of paying back. So I just wanted to let our membership be aware of that as well, that there was no accountability for that error with the county.
That is a true statement, and despite the efforts of Commissioner Bunning and I to the contrary, nothing has been done yet.
Commissioner, Director Heebner has a question for you.
I just have a couple comments if I can.
Go ahead.
First, commissioners, thank you for your unyielding support for Ocean Pines. I mean, it shows. Thank you. While Elaine and Monica and John are the lead interface with you on this wastewater issue, the remainder of us have a vested interest to make sure that Ocean Pines doesn't get ripped off. Okay? Does anybody remember the sci-fi series in the 90s with Gillian Anderson and the Coveney, the X-Files? The truth is out there. But you know what? Not these two commissioners, but it seems that a majority of the other commissioners have been less than truthful on this subject that has come to light with the fiscal year 26 budget for water, wastewater enterprise funds. And they haven't been truthful. Rick just pointed out one thing. Nobody's been held accountable for this mismanagement of this financial mismanagement breach. There hasn't been an audit to give the fine people of Worcester County confidence that nothing else is going on in the treasurer's office. You put forward a motion, Chip, to inform the people of Worcester County what's going on, and you were denied. That's incredible. And contrary to county code with these enterprise funds, which means expenses should equal income, and they should be paid for by the individual 11 water service areas, it's against the law. This is contrary to county code and seems to be against the law. So the county commissioners have an opportunity to be more truthful. And you pointed out in your handout with some upcoming meetings prior to the final vote of this fiscal year 26 budget. I find it ironic that a majority, and not including you two, of course, have a real disdain for Ocean Pines, but yet they love our wallets and pocketbooks, not only to pay for a county screw up, but to visit their retail businesses. I have one question for everybody. Do you want to shoulder the millions in shortfalls in debts from other service areas, which we would be paying, like Chip said, 56% for. And you don't have to answer. I'll answer for you. Hell no.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm going to recognize my colleague Elaine Brady has a question.
First, again, I want to thank both of you for coming because this is such an important issue and it came up very quickly. The one thing I, like to just put out is that, Chip has said, keep it simple. Don't worry about all the numbers and get into the weeds. What we need is your support. Send emails to the commissioners. We've got to fight this thing, got to understand that we're not going to put up with it. The numbers really don't matter. It's the unfairness of this, and it has happened over and over again. They have the vote. They can just look at our two commissioners and say, we don't care. We've got the votes. We have to let them know that that's not okay. They have to do what's fair to all of us in this county, not just to their ratepayers. So, it's ask you, please, become, get the message out. We will be doing a lot of things. We've already behind the scenes have put things in place that if they don't change their mind at this upcoming meeting on Tuesday, we're gonna fight back and fight back hard. Thank you both. You have really stepped up to the plate with our community, and we much appreciate it.
Director John
Latham.
Latham. That guy.
Commissioner Bunning, Commissioner Bertino, again, thank you very, very much. Just a couple observations, and I just find it, I guess the term that comes to me is egregious. When I listened to that meeting and this topic was on that, and it was almost just kind of a matter of fact to the other commissioners, like, hey, we're just going to skim right through this. Everybody's going to raise their hand and we're going to move on. I found that extremely egregious, and I thank you both for your support in getting to the bottom of it. The other thing is, I had mentioned when we met last week or so, is the whole thing is problematic, and what I see is any decision that is made here in the near future becomes a precedent going forward. So we're just talking about 2 years. We're talking about 26 and 27. Is that correct? What about 28, 29? It's kind of like as soon as something happens, right? It's like, oh, that's the process now. And I think Commissioner Bertino, you had mentioned that this payment doesn't go away. So it's not, this thing just keeps on going, right? So it's not, us looking back and it going away is probably not going to happen anytime soon. So again, we certainly appreciate your support. Hopefully we could get support from some of the other commissioners, and us as a board and as a community want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to help to support this. So thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. And if I may just follow up on something that you said, we're here representing Ocean Pines, talking with you, but there are other service areas that are being screwed just as much as we are. Newark, West Ocean City, and I'll just go down the list. Assateague Point, Bredelltown, Lighthouse Sound, River Run, West Ocean City. They're getting screwed just as much as we are over this. But I'm not before them, and I don't represent those communities. I represent this one. And you come after this community, I'm not going to step aside, and I don't think this community is going to roll over. But so to your point, John, other commissioners, and Elaine, you mentioned this as well, other commissioners have service areas that are being screwed just as much as Ocean Pines is. It's incumbent upon them and those service areas to raise up and make their voices heard to those commissioners, because that will change things. Because if I'm sitting down in Newark and I'm already paying some of the highest water and wastewater rates in the county, and then I'm told I have to pay even more because of screw ups at Riddle Farm, I don't think those people are going to be pleased. And I think pressure upon the commissioner representing that area will make a difference. So it's not just us.
Elaine.
I'm sorry, just one quick question. Can you give us the names of the commissioners who service those areas?
Newark is Commissioner Elder.
Okay.
West Ocean City is Commissioner Fiore. Um, River Farm is Commissioner Bunning. I'm sorry, what did I say?
River Run.
River Run, yes. Oh, River Run is you. Yeah, Glen Riddle, or Riddle Farm is Commissioner Fiore. Mystic Harbor is Commissioner Fiore, and they're the two largest concerns is Mystic Harbor and Riddle Farm. Town is, I believe, is Commissioner Purnell. So they have service areas that will be negatively impacted by this as well. And I think that hopefully the constituents in those areas will bring that to their attention.
I have a question for you,
Yeah.
Commissioner. First, I want to mirror my colleagues here on the board with their support for both you and Commissioner Bunting in this effort, because this is big. So how long will this rate increase go if it's approved?
Well, the 2.1 million, I suspect that we'll see that continuously.
No, I'm talking about the other six.
Oh, the 6, that is supposed to be over a 10-year plan.
So this is a 10-year rate increase
Yes.
until they find something else.
Yeah, and I think we can all admit that when it comes to money in government does not let go. So yeah, it's over 10 years. Now, please, and you'll see a footnote in here, the rates that are shown in here on page 3, when it gets the cost for all users, are based on a 1 year, not over the 10-year projected. So it was just easier to do it this way.
So it times it by 10.
Yeah. Please don't get involved. Please don't get into the weeds on the numbers. The fact is, it's unfair. I don't care if it's $1 or $100. It's unfair. And further, all the service areas, including Ocean Pine, should be responsible and accountable for what their costs are for that service area, whatever they are, as long as it's done fairly. So no service area should not pay for what they are using. We have a responsibility to do it, and Ocean Pines has a responsibility to do it as well.
Actually, I am going to open the floor because we have a lot of our ratepayers here that want
okay.
to say something. Stand up and state your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. I want to thank, should I start again? Carol Frazier, 64 Bramblewood Drive. I want to thank Commissioners Bunting and Bertino for fighting on our behalf on this issue. The first question that comes to my mind is, what the heck happened at Riddle Farm? They're a much newer system than we are, and I mean, they have to truck effluent to us. I don't understand that.
Oh,
Is that like, would that be like incompetence or malfeasance on the part of the developer who put in the system?
No, I'd be happy to answer the question. It's a very good question. The answer is this. I think it was in 2015 that we were presented with a plan to renovate the plant and the screens and filters that were used for the plant. At that time, I think the number was about, it was a couple $1 million to do that. Within a very short period of time, around 2015, 2016, the operators of the plant realized that the new system was not working. And instead of telling us and giving us the opportunity to hold accountable the people that did the renovation, they took it upon themselves to pump and haul. And it wasn't until, as I said earlier, 2017, when the commissioners found out what the heck was going on. So it was mismanagement of the plant.
All right, well.
Just one question per person, please, because it's going to run into time. Anybody else have a question for Commissioner Bertino? Gentleman here in front.
Wait a minute, Jack. Wait for the microphone.
You recognize each other.
Yeah, I know, the microphone. I want you to.
Give the.
No,
it's
so
for you.
this
It's
is
for
being
you.
recorded.
No, it's for you.
That's okay. You can go
Okay,
ahead.
Jack Collins, 7 Preakness. Couple questions, as it relates to the vote that takes place at the commissioner level, at these commissioner meetings.
Mhm.
You made it very clear that Ocean City stands on its own, processes its water and wastewater on its own.
Yes,
So therefore, the representative from Ocean City really has no pony in this race or in this parade.
that's correct.
So with all due respect to Commissioner Matresic, shouldn't he sort of like step aside?
He did.
He
He
did.
did.
Well, and not be involved in the vote at all?
Well, no,
And in that, well, that's my
Yeah.
question.
yeah.
Should,
That's not the way
shouldn't
it
he be
works.
stepping aside? And that would be a 3-3 vote, at which case would anything pass?
Well, first of all, it wouldn't be fair. It would be, we are elected from districts. And each of us, but we represent the entire county. Although we come from individual districts, we have a responsibility for the entire county. And no commissioner should be excluded from a vote unless there's a conflict of interest. But in the example that you gave, Commissioner Matresic would have every right and authority to vote on this.
Does anybody else have a question for Commissioner Bertino? Time for maybe one more. Gentleman over here.
I just have a commit,
Can you state your name and address, sir? Can you state your name and address, sir?
You need the microphone.
I'll back up to Beecham Road.
Gotcha.
I was thoroughly disgusted with some things, but I went to the county with them several times. I didn't go to you all. But for one thing, these tanker trucks are blasting down Beecham Road doing like 60 miles an hour, which thoroughly disgusts me, to be honest with you, because I back up to that street. And I went to the county and I told them so, and they said, well.
Who did you talk to? What department? Because I'll hold, you let me
I'll
know.
write it down and give it to you.
Thank you.
I didn't like it. Okay, I still don't like it. For some reason, there's people on both sides of that street with kids. I got grandkids. I don't like the fact these tanker trucks are blasting down through there. It's speed limit 40, not 60, not 70. And then they unload these fluids down there and they smell, let's just say that. And it's ridiculous, okay? And I told them that. The second thing was, when they built Beecham Road going through there, they took the dirt from the actual street and dumped it over on Ocean Pines land and left it there for 30, 40, 50 years. So everybody that lives on that side of the street, if you're living in Ocean Pines, you have to move that dirt. And I said, why do I have to move your dirt? It's not my dirt. And they got it piled all down through there. And they said, well, there's nothing they're going to do. So they did absolutely nothing about it. Beecham Road is getting worn out.
Does this have anything to do with what we're talking about?
Yes, Beecham Road, I'll talk about anything I want to talk about.
No, sir, no, you won't. This is just concerning the wastewater issue.
Beecham Road, the road is wearing out because of these tanker trucks.
Okay.
Okay, is that it? You home with me now? That road is worn out. These kids are walking on this street and these tankers are blasting down through there.
Okay, that's a little off topic to what this was, but thank you, sir.
I can go off topic.
It's okay. Thank you. Keith, can you take the microphone, please? Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Bertino, do you have any closing statements?
For the past 11 years, for the past 15 years, Commissioner Bunning and I have represented this community. We've done, I believe, a very good job. This is an issue where we need your help. So will you help us? Mr. President, Board, thank you very much for your time. You know how to reach me. Elaine, I'll be in touch with you following our meeting on Tuesday. Please remember the 2 dates, Town Hall meeting on the 23rd and the public hearing on the 6th. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Bertino and Bunting, for all of your effort on our behalf. We're going to move on. My president's remarks. Before I give my president's remarks, I want to just make a statement here about, we lost somebody in our community that was an amazing treasure. Jim Trummell passed away recently, and he was an absolute reference for anything dealing with our governing documents. This is an amazing loss. I just wanted to take a moment of silence in his honor. Thank you again very much. Thanking again Commissioner Bertino and Bunting for addressing this issue that's going to affect us all. Moving on, I hope you're all as excited about as I am for the arrival of spring. It's a time when we finally shed our winter coats, step outside and remember what the sun looks like without squinting through a couple layers of clothes. As president of your board of directors, I can tell you that spring is a time of renewal, not just for our gardens and yards, although we know the annual rite of trying to revive last year's lawn that somehow has decided to go on strike. But there's also a time to renew, refresh, and reflect on all the things that make Ocean Pines a great place. Let's talk about our amazing community for a minute. Every season we come together, whether it's for a neighborhood event, like our season kickoff event that's happening in May, a board meeting, or simply to help one another. Spring is a great time to remember that even if things feel a little dry or barren at times, a little water, some sunshine, and a strong sense of unity can bring everything back to life. Here's to a season of renewal and growth and community. Let's make this spring the best one yet. I also want to take this opportunity to give a heartfelt thanks to the Matt Ork Company. On behalf of the entire Ocean Pines community, I'd like to extend our deepest gratitude to Matt Ork and his company for their exceptional 7 years of service to our community. As Matt moves on to future endeavors, we wish him nothing but the best. We have no doubt that he'll continue to inspire and succeed just as he did here. We are all looking forward to Touch of Italy and what they bring to Ocean Pines. If you can judge by anything, these pastries were amazing if anybody had any. So I wish to Touch of Italy the best of luck, and I'll see all of you guys at the Yacht Club. Moving on, we have the GM report, John Viola.
Thank you, Stuart. Okay, so actually the first topic we have is water and wastewater. We were instructed by the board to communicate everything that's going on, which we have done. I'm going to ask Linda to read to everybody what we have done so far in communicating it, what we are planning to do, and our next steps. This is a fluid document. As you saw today, we'll be adding to it. Linda.
Okay, we'd like to thank the commissioners for being out here today for this important topic. What we have done so far, we shared Commissioner Bettino's statement from the March 20th special board meeting. We'll be also sharing what he passed out today as well on the website. We have invited local media to cover the March 29th OPA board meeting. I do see a few here as well. So hopefully they'll get that word out in their papers. Committed to follow up on any statements with additional press releases and communication across all available OPA channels. What we are planning to do, we will continue to share updates on the Commissioner's financial report and repayment plan, promote and prepare for town hall meetings with Commissioner Bunting, Bertino, and which will provide information and updates. And we encourage the community participation in the May 6th Worcester County public hearing. Also, the reminder of the town hall that's scheduled at the library in April. Next steps, we hope to post the county's financial report and payment details on OPA website once they are available. Provide continued press outreach and updates to keep the community informed. Mobilize community engagement and prepare residents for the May 6th public hearing, and monitor county decisions and respond swiftly to protect the interests of Ocean Pines ratepayers.
Okay, thank you, Linda. And moving on, next I'm going to talk about our initiatives. I'll be talking about the golf course irrigation. Where are we with that? Phase 1 has been completed. Holes 1, 9 and driving range. Phase 2, they're working on holes 2 and 3 and work around the pump station. We are on track for April. Racket Sports Building work began in February. March highlights: plumbing work completed and inspected, concrete poured, framing completed. The estimate price, as we know, has increased because we're doing more there. We've basically gutted the place, and it was the right decision. So they have it now, so you can see the pictures there where they're at. They're talking being complete for May, and I'm excited about that. Turn the page. Dog park structure, I noticed came up at the last board meeting, and it has been on the list for a while. We tried to get contractor in or somebody on staff to do it during the winter. We were unable to do that. We committed to having the contractor from the Racket Sports building to complete it once he's completed with the Racket Sports building. Here's a sketch of it. It's more a rain shelter, I'm being told, that they need. So we've received approval from Worcester County for requested shade structure. We have the permits, work to begin after the completion of the Racket Sports building, so it'll probably be somewhere in May, and the cost is to be determined. We have some ranges. Firehouse is the big one. I see Joey is here. Terrific. I am listing it as green. I am closing out the pre-planning stage with agreement from the volunteer fire department. I have to say it's been a pleasure on that first phase, and I know it will be for all of them. The team, and you can see the team is in the bottom right corner, and Frank Brown is a volunteer, and I do want to highlight that. So you can see a picture of the outside of the building. The word volunteer needs to be put in there. That's basically the only change we had on that, and we are working on that. So shovel in the ground, as I've been stating for almost a year, shovel in the ground estimate October 2025, somewhere around 65 weeks to complete this great structure. The cost, I'm going to put TBD now. It was over a year ago where I gave this association, the board, estimated cost that I felt good about. It has been a year. I do have some ranges, but let's go through the process. The plans reviewed on March 14th, architect to make minor changes. So now we're in the planning stage. There were some minor changes. Everything was added or any fine, and then more like fine tuning changes from the fire department. Everybody was in agreement. Week of March 23rd, met with Vista on site plans, mechanical drawings, the permit process. So obviously now we're working on mechanical plans, everything on track. And then obviously the big is referendum to be sent out with election material in July. I am working on that, and I am working on different scenarios to present to the board and the association on how we would pay our piece, the Ocean Pines piece. Bocce ball courts. I know Mike is here today. So let me talk about this one. I read the forum. I read a lot of the media. And it was a question here, why wasn't this put in the budget, which the board just signed off on? Well, this is this year. This is the 24-25 year. I believed, and what we were on track for was building this or maintaining or renovating the bocce ball courts we had through our budget process for this year. And I do have money put aside for this type of stuff, what we do. Based upon now with the prices and the fact that we felt as it got more, I'm not going to use the word complicated, but there was more to it, we've elected to come forward and request that we go outside and get an outside contractor to do it, which we're doing. So the leagues are forming, play to beginning May. We will have them done by May. I know Mike is here. He is like the commissioner of this. He has done a lot of return on investments for us. We believe that the price is going to be somewhere around $50-something thousand, that we will get a return on investment somewhere in around 7 years. It'll be two courts. They will be to standards and kind of professional, right, Mike? Yes. Okay, so you can see on the bottom, they'll be located at the yacht club where the current one is. They'll be overlapping each other. Mike was highlighting to me this morning too. Obviously, there's ancillary and big time ancillary. He believes revenue that would be generated at the yacht club, and one of the reasons for having it there. So again, it's going to be around $50,000. Bulkheads will come forward today, requesting approval today during capital request. We can lock in the price of $450, which is pretty much consistent where it's been for several years if we do this up front. We've had success with it the last 2 years, requesting approval to purchase the material now. We will store it at Public Works, lock in the prices. We all know about tariffs. We all know about inflation and what's been going on. So we have the opportunity here today, and we're requesting to go forward on 2 separate contracts to Fish and Marine, which we'll talk about a little while from now. Okay, so and then you can see where we're looking to do these bulkheads, clubhouse side bulkheads, water links and golf course. Okay. Going to turn over to Linda, our Director of Business Administration. And Debbie Donahue is here today. We're going to talk about the gym floor, something that's been out there for a while. And Debbie's team, or the work group I put together, did a lot of work on this, and she'll talk about that. So I guess Debbie's up first. Morning, Debbie.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. So I'm actually very excited about being able to talk about this today. There's been some misunderstandings as to actually what happened. So let's kind of clear that up first, and then we'll talk about where we would like to go. It really wasn't coming from the outside. It wasn't a massive leak underneath the flooring. It was actually an O-ring in the piping that runs the water to the radiant heat. If you don't understand, we do have radiant heat in every room in the community center, which is a great thing, actually, to do it that way because of yoga ladies and Pilates. And when you're on the floor, the kids on the floor, it makes a huge difference on being able to do those exercises and take those classes. So it is a great thing. It was a minor little thing that once it was in the wall, was unable to be detected until, unfortunately, the water was on the floor. And then we found where it was coming from. So luckily, those pipes are encased in a metal box in the wall. So it did not go any further in the wall. Only place it had to go was out. So on the gym floor. So anyway, hardwood floor over top of water piping. Yeah, good decision, bad decision, we move forward from that decision. So what we've done now is we have gone to multiple different recreation departments, schools, different locations in the area from here to Illinois to speak to people that have worked with different companies, have different floorings. Some of them are hardwood, some of them are pour out, some of them are laid out in sheets. And the decision that I've made, proposal to the GM and the board is to use a company that it's a pour floor. They put padding underneath it. It has been used at Dorchester County, the Salisbury Salvation Army, Ocean City Recreation and Parks, and it is very shock absorbent to your body. It's great for playing pickleball and basketball and any type of sport, running or whatnot. Worcester County actually has it in their gym with a track where you run on it as well. Excuse me. So to me, this seems like the best option. The hardwood, you have to leave gaps for it to expand and contract, which we all know if you've been in the community center, it has gaps and there's only so much that we can do to fix it. If we were to sand and do the things that we had talked about with all stages, because Eddie and Butch and John and I have gone through every stage of from sanding it and fixing it to replacing it altogether. Sanding it is not going to fix the problem. It's just going to immediate problem. It's a Band-Aid, basically. So we have proposed that we move forward with the pour floor. There's no seams. There's no padding on the top that can get, ripped, rubbered from chairs or anything of that nature. It is to me the best option, although it is a replacement of what didn't take long to have this problem. If we do have the radiant heat problem again, the water problem, it will just roll out. And we mop it up. It's not anything that's going to cause this type of damage again. So I look at longevity. It does have a 5-year warranty to it. The company is always there if for some reason we do have a problem. And every so many years, they will come back and resurface what is already there.
Look, you have some questions. If you have questions, we'll take them. I mean, just funnel them through me, but Debbie will.
The thing is warranted for 5 years.
Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Sorry.
So can I just add on that?
Yeah, go ahead,
It's a
John.
good question. So the floor we have now, that company is no longer in business. Obviously, it's out of warranty also. So, Steve.
Stephen?
Thanks. I just, it sounds like it's the proper way to go. What I'm just wondering about is is there a need to sort of control the radiant heat itself?
Excellent question.
So that, I understand if there's a leak, you can take care of it. It'll be easier to take care of than the current floor. I get all that. But if we didn't have a problem at all because we have better control of the radiant heat, we'd be better off entirely. So I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, so it's an excellent question, Steve. So as Debbie mentioned, there is radiant heat throughout the building. One of the reasons I think, or we think they have it, is a lot of the programs, people are laying on the floors were cold. This is where the people that built this thing years ago, and it was probably a very good idea. So we've had problems even with what I've been told, even with the prior floor. We need to regulate that heat somewhere around what, 105, 110, 105. And we're going to make sure that we have maintenance on this and checked every day. If we maintain that heat level at 105, there should not be a problem at all. In addition to that, what I've asked Public Works to give me is estimates. I have some ballparks on putting in additional heating in there. So heat from up top in addition to that. So, right, we need to monitor that. We did go to places that do have radiant heat under this type of product. And they've given us positive feedback, but it's a really good question.
I have a question for you, John. So this was not a failure of our radiant heat system. This was a failure of a pipe with water that goes to it.
Yeah, so that, and I'm glad, Stuart, you have me highlighting that. Right, so Linda said, so you look at it as a manifold. So you have a manifold with all the different hoses going underground. So it did not leak within the floor. The manifold, and as Debbie said, an O-ring or whatever ring popped. And unfortunately, because of the way it's structured, there's nothing wrong with it. There's a door, it was hitting the door, and then it was seeping underneath. So it was several days before they actually found it. Of course, it happens over a weekend when there's not a lot of people there. So, right, it had nothing to do, and we're still good with the radiant structure.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, no, good point. That's it. All right, good. I reckon Parks.
Oh.
Okay, just highlighting some events going on in Rec and Parks. Activity guide was released this month. It's available online. If you haven't seen a copy of it, they have Rec and Parks is promoting some new activities, including ballet, yoga, Pilates, fusion fitness, Tai Chi, the PEP, People Enjoying People, social club, a birding class, bike rodeo, Ocean Pines Got Talent, Bark on the Beach, Family Sandcastle building contest as well. The Bark on the Beach and the Sandcastle will be at the Beach Club. Spring Flea Market at April 5th, Breakfast with the Easter Bunny April 12th, and Easter Celebration Egg Hunt on April 19th. And camps have been sold out.
So, what we call the PEP Club, this was something that we had years ago, and then another one of those things that COVID took away from us. So they came to us asking if we would want to host an event with them again. This is from Worcester County Development Center. And I'm sorry. It's what I do when I talk, because I don't really like to talk in front of people. But it is a wonderful group of people that come. They, the members of the Worcester County Development Center have their plus ones, is what we call them, the people that come with them. We get about 30 or 40 of them once a month. We come up with a different, Katie comes up with a different program every month for them, whether it's painting, a dinner dance, different things like that. We've done music with Carol, all kinds of different things, and it is thriving. We are getting more and more people all the time. So if you guys want a wonderful time on a Friday night from 5 to 7 once a month, come enjoy that class, because it is amazing to watch.
Yes, Elaine.
I just wanted to ask a question about the camps, because I know there was an issue last year where a lot of people signed up. So we were booked out, and then when the day came for them to pay their full amount for that, they had already made other arrangements.
Correct.
And so it, it obviously hurt the financials because it was late at that point for other people to sign up.
Right.
That I know, I guess, is being rectified in some way this year. Have you?
Yes. So what we have decided is that once they've signed up for the weeks, they're going to be responsible for paying for them. If they cancel and I can't fill those spots, then they're going to have to pay for the week. There's not the, let's transfer the deposit, you know. So what happens is they pay the first week in full, and then they pay deposits for every other week for the rest of the summer, so that we can allow them to make payments every week versus having to pay the whole amount at one time, right? So now they will be responsible for that week. If they decide that week 5 is not something that they can come to, they either have to fill that spot or they're going to be required to pay for it even if they're canceling out. Okay, yeah. But it is full. We are way maxed to our limit with kids and counselors. Yep.
Debbie, do you have a waiting list?
Yes, we do. We have about 55 people on the waiting list right now. But our camp director has literally gone through, so we have registration, but then it gets creative. You put this one in here, this one in here. I can offer you 2 weeks. I can offer you 3 weeks, you know. So we've gone through just about every option of fitting in as many kids as we can. And we're about 140. Some of them are 150.
Yeah, your program is amazing. I have heard nothing but
Thank
real
you.
positive from the camp program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for, nope.
Oh, back to Linda.
Okay, highlighting some items in aquatics. We're still working on the liquor license to see if it's actually allowable at the swim and racket facility. When we tried to apply, we were told that it's not a club or a restaurant. So we're trying to do some kind of workaround. We're still working with attorneys. Hopefully we'll get some kind of notification soon. Otherwise, if we do not get it, at least we still have the snack bar. So come visit snack bar. Beach club, we will have extended pool hours to accommodate live music on Friday and Saturday. Pools will be open till 7 o'clock. This is new with Touch of Italy that they are promoting live music, going back to live music at the beach club. On another note, we have ordered the steps for the yacht club pool. They will be put in before the season starts. They are non-slip. They're good for the seniors. We are looking into the Mumford's Landing pool. We will be addressing that as well. And the swimming racket, the lifeguards keep the kids off the steps. They do their best to do that. We have not had any issues in the past. We just had a few complaints, but we have addressed them immediately.
Thank you.
Leaf maintenance, hot topic. As brought up last month, Section 10D of the Declaration of Restrictions state easements shall be maintained continuously by the lot owner. Section 8AL says that all properties have to be maintained to unsightly accumulation. Over the last 2 months, we have issued 491 violations. 180 have been resolved. We have had probably 100 phone calls as well that we have worked with these people and asked them, they asked for extension. They want to save the bees. Okay, the bees stop hibernating in 2 weeks. We'll give you extension to the middle of April. We will work with you. We are not dictators. We will work with you. So we thank anyone who has complied or has contacted us requesting an extension.
Linda, just to expand on what you're saying, basically, if it grows from the ground, we take care of it. If it falls on the ground, the owners have to take care of it. That's basically it, right? Thank you. Yes, Elaine?
We kind of wanted, because we all see on social media, and some people have been very upset about the amount of violations for the leaves. And typically, I think during the winter time, there normally isn't that much of violating for that. They wait till springtime. But I would like to thank our operations team, because knowingly that there were going to be several severe storms. They're usually once in a decade here. The 3 snowstorms we had, the pouring rains, they were proactive. They knew what was going to happen when when the snow or the rain were just out of control this year. They knew the flooding was going to be unbelievable if something wasn't done. So they decided we need to ask people early this year, as knowing these storms were coming up, to please clean up your leaves in your ditches so that your neighbor's yard, your yard, the rest of the community don't have flooding problems. I mean, we did have some, but quite frankly, by their doing that and people cleaning up, the folks who were here, we know everybody can't do it, it did help mitigate. You know, we did have a lot of flooding, but it could have been a lot worse without folks being asked to clean up their leaves in their ditches.
I just want to add on, Ocean Pines has about 170, 180 miles in our drainage system, the way it's engineered. If they get clogged up, that's where the issues become a problem. Jeff?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of piggyback what you just said. You know, not only is this an issue of beautification, which we've changed a lot of our to enforce this, and we've hired more inspectors, but this is really an issue of water drainage. John, you and your staff have done so much work on this. We've got to keep these drainage ditches clear. I went out after this last big rain, it was over 3 inches of rain. What a difference it made. You know, we still have, you know, our normal issues, but it was draining well.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Yeah, and Jeff, and thank you. I actually was going to jump in to say that we do have a drainage strategic plan. We're going to post this. If we don't have it up on the website, I was going to put it in there. And this is kind of almost the last phase of it, in the sense that, look, we reallocated resources 5 years ago from effective and efficiencies in our expenses. We focused on the pipes. There were many pipes we found were failing, especially around the golf course, not golf course pipes, but we found out that a lot of the water goes through the golf course to go out to the bay. And a lot of it was getting stuck in the golf course. One of the reasons why the golf course would be continuously wet, which it is not anymore. We focused on the main pipes. We've lined them. I've been going to the board and to the association for the last 3 years. That's all working now. Now we need all the drainage ditches to be cleared. And this is what we need. We need everybody, together we're better. Clean out your ditches. We've put out there, we just put out now a special on the paper bags. I think it's 30 cents and limited time offer, 30 cents. It's a 40% discount if you go to Home Depot from here. Please bag them. I see a lot of people are doing them. Keep those ditches clean. And like Jeff said, we're seeing better drainage. We're seeing it already. We had 3 inches of rain a couple of weeks ago. This golf course drained. The next day, they were able to go out on the course off the cart path. So please, I understand some people, it's something, whatever, but you know, you bag it, we will grab it, and we'll get this thing together, right? I know that's all I have on the strategic. Thank you, Jeff.
Rick?
Yeah, just wanted to follow up regarding this because I know it's a hot topic with our community. One of the things I just want to mention that we do have residents here that are part-time. They may not make it down here for a period of time, and they may receive a violation. One of the things that I wanted to ensure about our association membership is if there are issues, contact Linda. Ask for an extension. We'll give that to you. We're going to work with you on that. The best thing is to have that type of communication. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that if there are issues and you can't get it done for whatever reason, just contact Linda in the office and ask for an extension to ensure at a particular time that you'll be able to ensure that the leaves and debris is cleared out of those ditches.
Thank you, Rick. Back to you.
Okay, CPI violation dashboard for February, we had 212 violations initiated, 133 maintenance, trash and debris, 18 no permits, 16 signs, and 45 miscellaneous. We had 114 violations closed out, 408 remain open. 73 of the 410 are open or in legal. Work orders, we had a total of 61 work orders, 49 closed out, 52 still open, a majority still open in drainage. We still have the all-time low of only 24 drainage work orders. So the leaf maintenance program is working along with the strategic plan. 1 is over 30 days, 11 over 60 days. That will be resolved by a contractor when available.
Linda, in the entire time I've been here, I've never seen this few.
Yeah.
Great job.
And for customer service dashboard, we had 66 phone calls and emails. growing just because it's that time of year for amenity questions. Any info, you can email info@oceanpines.org or call 410-641-7717. That goes for if you have any questions about leaves, you do not want to talk to anyone, email info@oceanpines.org. I'm the one that answers the email, and I will get back to you and give you an extension.
Yes, John.
Thanks, Linda. Two quick questions I have is, can you tell us, I know the mailboxes, we did that a couple months ago or recently, and I'm not trying to set you up, I promise. Is there, I mean, or is there, we still had a plan, and the reason I ask is we've gotten some feedback on status.
Want me to do it? So yeah, we actually, that's continuous. It's fluid.
Okay,
So if you do have something that we don't have and we don't have the list, we'll put it on there.
okay,
But we do. We did a lot. It hasn't been as much lately, but we will jump on it.
yeah, I mean, during the
We
winter,
have
I
allocated
imagine
money
not doing
for it.
during the
Yeah,
winter.
just give it to Linda and we will take care of it.
Yep, okay, and then my next question, and Chief Robinson's here, so I'll ask if he has any updates on cell, and if there's any timeline that we might be talking about, any recommendations. And another email that we have received that I want to try to clear up, and Chief Robinson can help clear us up as well. So some feedback we've got is why are we having our chief of police spending his time looking into cell service? So I know two reasons, and Chief Robinson could add, and John could add if they'd like. One is it's a public safety issue, which Chief Robinson has mentioned. Number two, which I think many people don't know, is in Chief Robinson's prior life, he has experience with this, as I think he has shared. So many folks don't know that portion, and it's not that we were trying to just step out of the responsibility and hand it off, but Chief Robinson does have experience, and that is kind of why we were looking to have him kind of lead those conversations. So again, I just want to clear it up because we get the question why we're wasting our resources on the chief of police to do that.
Chief, would you like to respond?
Thank you for the opportunity. First, I just want to say when I realized there was a problem and I brought it to Mr. Viola's attention and some other folks here, I volunteered because that's what I do. I try to volunteer to be helpful, and I'm not the only person work. Josh Davis is also part of my team to work this, and we are still in a talking phase, but we're getting to the point where we're talking with Verizon and we're talking with a potential contractor, but still we have not made any scheduling of anybody actually coming here to Ocean Pines to actually look at any sites. And I'm saying sites plural. So hopefully, possibly the next meeting, I might have more information though.
Is it fair also to say that not only would we evaluate a cell tower, but we would also evaluate an option to expand a current service? Again, I'm not a technical guy, so we
Those
talked about
conversations
hanging
have
off the
happened
water
about the
tap.
technicality of what they're capable of with the existing towers.
Right.
We have done that, yes. And different things too that other communities have done that just are not going to be viable for Ocean Pines.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Back to you, John.
Other questions? Okay. All right, so let's go to financials. This is our report card for Ocean Pines. I got to say, our accounting department does an excellent job. Okay, so we look at it, we start off with the month, as I mentioned all the time. According to our scrolls, we have to report budget. So what I give you when I give you the variances, it's versus budget. It's favorable or unfavorable. Doesn't necessarily mean we have surplus overall, because as we know, and over the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of this money that we will realize after this year is closed out will go towards the next assessment. All right, so if you look at the month, you go down to the far right, the bottom corner, that's the number everybody focuses on. That's what I've been told, and it is true. So for the month versus budget, we're favorable $95,000. And then if you just scroll up and you start, you can see golf was favorable 9,000. Yacht Club was favorable to budget 8,000. Police was unfavorable 10,000 as he ramps up. As you know, we're ramping up the police department. We also need to realize too that we have a budget and, we have ramped up in the next budget also. So working towards that goal of getting fully staffed. On the administration side, there was favorability more on the insurance contracts and what we've experienced there. Public Works have some favorability. We may have that now, depending on how we approach the bocce courts. Right, so that's the big number, 95,000. If you look to prior year, you can see all the numbers. Turn the page. Year to date, again, favorability, unfavorable to budget. And what we did this year is we also added to the prior year. So, on the year to date, you can see from prior year, we're even favorable 85. But for the budget, the number I have to report, we're 827,000 favorable for the year. February, obviously, we have 2 more months. So we're 10 months in, we're favorable 827,000. We're estimating somewhere, hopefully, to be favorable $950,000, a little less, probably 300,000 less, 250 from last year. But again, favorable. You go down, you can see again, and they've coined the phrase golf, the economic engine. Let's not forget our support team and our totally senior management team and everything, which do drive these results along with the board and everybody else. So 200,000 on golf. We continue to maximize our tee sheet and the customer experience there. Aquatics, you can see favorable to budget. We had a lot of increases, focused more there because of the statutory increases, but doing a really good job. Pretty much everybody straight down the list. Yacht Club is unfavorable to budget. Unfavorable also prior year. You can see the numbers, but overall, looking real good. Okay. Front page. Oh, no. So again, all this is unaudited. Our reserve summary, we've put this in. This is very important. This is where our cash is. This is what's allocated, what's appropriated for our replacement, bulkheads, roads, drainage, new capital. So you can see at the end of February, our total reserves, $7.2 million, which includes a drainage reserve, something new over the last several years, where we've allocated money there, never did before. But the big one, the one everybody focuses on, is general replacement. At the end of February, it's around 5 million, 5.1. We're estimating at the end of April forecast for this year, somewhere around 4.8. I'd like to be somewhere in the 5 million range, 5.5 going into the DMA study, which will be next year. We all know what that is. That's a reserve study. By law, we have to bring in somebody from the outside, which is really good. And we've been doing that, by the way, for 7 years, to evaluate ours and to give an opinion on it. I believe we have a Goldilocks situation here between the reserves. We're estimating next year that reserve number to be 5.6 million. So again, that's 14 months from now. But we do spend a lot of time on that. So that's what we would be looking at going in with the DMA study, the outside independent contractor. We do have on our balance sheet that I've been updating the board and other concerned citizens. We have retained earnings of around $2.8 million. That's important. When we started this journey 7 years ago, we had a negative, I believe it was 1.6 or 1.7, a negative there. Obviously, you want everything to be balanced out, but with the fire department and other major things we have coming up, I believe we're situated well. I believe our assessment of 875 is situated right now. I don't want to see, nor do I manage that, we're going to have peaks and valleys in the assessment, especially over the next 4 years with a lot of moving parts. I believe we're situated well.
Thank you, John. We're going to move forward to the treasurer's report. Monica has an excused absence. I'll deliver the treasurer's report. As of February 28th, the association had approximately $13.5 million of cash. Cash decreased $500,000 from the same time last year, and cash decreased $800,000 from February of 25. 8.7 is invested in CDARS. 44,000 in interest was recognized for the month, and the remaining 4.8 million is insured cash, sweep accounts, treasury bills, money markets, and other operating accounts diversified between two local banks. Going back to John we're up to public comments then, right? Okay. We're up, I'm going to open the floor to public comments. Anybody wishing to make a public comment, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and your comments are limited to 5 minutes.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bill Hayes, and I'm here representing 790 Ocean Parkway. And I'm going to tell you a contrarian story to what Linda just said, Linda Martin I'm talking about, in terms of operations. Because I get a different perspective. I get a perspective of people in Ocean Pines talking to me all the time. Just like the board of directors get a piece of the pie from their people, I get a piece of the pie from my people. And understand, I'm also a team member. I'm in support of what Jeff is saying in terms of aesthetics and making the community look better. But I'm also starting to question some things as to which direction we're going. Right now, we're talking about leaves. We're about to talk about grass. Memorandum 04, M-04, gave the rights to the board of directors to send crews out to fix the problems deemed unsightly in your yard and then charge you for it. That's about to happen today. They said the ditches are working great. Well, 2 weeks ago, we had 3 inches show up here, and the entire sidewalk on the new side of River Run was underwater on Beecham Road. Beecham Road ended up getting cleared on the River Run side, but didn't get cleared on the Ocean Pine side. So Kathy Denk and let's see, a couple others, Pinehurst, Sandy Hook, Briarcrest, 100 houses sat with water at the edge of their house for 3 days. When I went through Pinehurst, the water was a foot deep across the road. A day or two after, Jim Bunning was here. He told us our system was designed to make the water go away within 24 hours. 3 days is too long. Kathy Denk has been complaining for 3 years now. And it's probably because of Jim Bunning's $1 million ditch that he made for us about 5, 6, 10 years ago, whatever it is. The document that we send out to the people when they don't do something right cites the DRs. It's not the DRs that they're violating. It's our initiative as a community to pay attention to what the yards look like. The pictures don't always tell the story. This picture is my house in the wintertime. It's a good house, looks good. I could probably sell it looking like this, but I can't convince Ocean Pines that there's nothing wrong with it. There's too many leaves in that yard. What they don't show you is the lot that's next door. That is a complete forest and swamp. And those leaves come all into this yard all the time. And that ditch is completely full all the time because nobody takes care of it. Not the owner. Maybe that's an Ocean Pines lot. I don't know what it is. I call it, what's the point? What's the point if I can do the ditch in front of my house, but my neighbor has an empty lot and doesn't do the ditch? Right across from all sorts of places. You just drive Ocean Parkway. There are 10 places right now that the ditches are at least 2 or 3 feet deep of leaves. Doesn't have anything to do with the homeowner not doing the right thing. South side, from the tower all the way to the stores, that whole ditch. Ocean Pines doesn't do it. See, because when Ocean Pines points a finger at you, they're also pointing 3 fingers back at themselves. And they're not looking at their own properties. Somerset Park got a shed on it. It's got mold all over the place. All the drainage around Somerset Park is all full. That's only 3 or 4 doors down from me. I see that. I go to the community center. I look in the back of the community center. I see pallets stacked up. And what makes me look at it is the blue tarp that's trying to hide them. So, I mean, my point is, yes, I'm in on this. And tell the people that we're going to try to look at all the yards and we want to try to improve the look, but importantly, because of the flooding. That's the leaves. That's important. But 10 inches of grass, or even now, if you try to sell a house as is, you can't sell a house as is if you have something wrong with the house. If you have, it needs to be power washed. It won't sell until you power wash it. It won't sell until you paint the porch. You have to bring it to a certain level. That's not a house as is. That's a house as is according to Ocean Pines. So I'm just saying, our operations may not be all that great in terms of communicating, and I think we need to improve that. And selective enforcement is the worst thing in the world you can do. Go in a cul-de-sac, all the houses are the same. One person gets hit with a citation.
Excuse me, Bill, you've reached your 5 minutes.
I'll
Thank
be
you.
back next week.
I'll see you then.
Yeah.
Somebody else, anybody else have a public comment that wants to step to the podium? Going once? There we go. Come on up to the front. Say your name and address, and you are also limited to 5 minutes.
My name is William Adler. I live at 87 Clubhouse Drive, 2 doors away. I got a citation for leaves along the front of the road. There is no drainage ditch there. I'm trying to understand why the leaves are a problem. I don't know if it's the leaves 2 foot from the road, 3 foot, 4 foot, how far I've got to get rid of leaves. We have a lot of, at least 80% is pine needles, which I understand are okay. But am I supposed to remove all the leaves on my property, or where does it start or stop? I don't understand. And because there's no drainage ditch, I'm trying to understand why I've been cited.
Linda, do you have anything? Yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
First of all, this is somewhat in response to the prior comment. This leaf issue does draw from the DRs. And I think those sections were mentioned by Linda or somebody else, but it's sections 10D, and that relates to clearing easements and ditches of leaves. 8L, which relates to, sir, clearing lots of leaves. So keeping your lot clear of leaves. 8L in the declaration deals with that. And then more importantly, for everybody's information, there is 14A of most of the declarations, and these numbers may vary to some degree from one set of DRs to another. But 14A is the provision that entitles the association to go onto the property and clear the leaves in the event that that the owner doesn't do it, and B, that the board authorizes OPA to do that. So that's 14A of the DRs. And then MO4 derives from that. MO4 is the board resolution that governs this issue of leaves. So, and to put a more finer point on your question, sir, it is the owner's obligation not only to keep leaves out of ditches, but also to keep their properties clear of leaves. And this is not, I mean, I think what OPA is focused on and the CPI department are focused on is a buildup of leaves, not you've got a few leaves in your yard and then you're going to get a letter. It's a substantial buildup of leaves on the yard. That's when you would likely receive, or some part of the yard, that's when you would likely receive a notice from CPI.
And I'm wondering, the yard for us to get rid of the leaves is still closed. When is there any chance that the maintenance yard could be opened up earlier so we can get rid of our leaves?
Go ahead, John.
And that's not, we are looking at that, just like the bags. And I've also talked to Public Works Friday to see if we can get another truck, some type of truck. I see a lot of houses have done a lot of bags, so we are trying to do that. We're working on it, yes.
All right. And where did you say, you said that in Home Depot, I can get a bag for 32 cents or something?
31 cents, where they get in Public Works? 30, right. So they're 51 cents, I believe, in Home Depot.
Yeah.
We're selling them for 30 cents to the end of the end of April.
And
So we're having a special on that. We understand everybody's trying to do their leaves. So if you get in there now, I think it's a limit of 25. Go to Public Works and they will sell you the bags at 40% off what you would pay at Home Depot, up to 25.
The other thing that I wanted to mention, I'm sorry, the other thing that I want to mention is what will happen if you get the notice and then you don't clear the lot out. of the leaves. What will happen is, as I understand it, is OPA will hire a contractor that will go in and clear your lot of leaves, and then the cost, there's no markup to that cost that gets carried forward. The cost of that to OPA for your lot then gets added to your assessment bill. And probably that charge would be less than if you were to hire a contractor to go out and do it yourself. My guess is. So that's the sort of
Say that.
the rest of the story as far as what happened.
Don't say that, Bruce.
Okay, all right. Okay. I'm out of my depth on that point.
Oh, boy.
Thank you, John.
Okay, thank you, sir. Does anybody else have any more public comments? Yes, sir. You're limited to 5 minutes to say your name and address, sir.
Joseph Brand, 96 White Horse Drive. Couple things I saw up there on your financials, and everything looks really good, especially the ladies over here. When you do remodels or you do maintenance work, your costs usually come in really close. But the new construction I saw up there was extremely off. I mean, you had some of your estimates at 150,000, 200,000. They're coming in at 500,000.
No.
Okay. There's ways of doing that. I'm a master builder, master carpenter. I've been that way for 50 years. I've built 25 houses, probably did 100 remodels. You have to go by cubic feet, square feet, time and material, cost plus materials, and then cost plus hourly. If you had to do those all 5 different ways, it'll get you really close. Now, I don't know how you guys are doing it. I'm not pretending to know more than you do. But I know you've got to do it 5 different ways, put these numbers down there, and then get a number somewhere in the middle, and then you're in the ballpark. Okay? Second thing, I'm a Maryland Home Improvement Commission contractor. I'm also through Ocean City, and I'm also through Delaware, and I'm also through Virginia as a master carpenter, master builder. What I see around here, where I see a problem, is just my opinion, is hot water power washing around here is not mandatory. Okay, you're allowing houses to have moss, algae, whatever, on any house can just do anything they want. A lot of developments don't require, they require these homeowners to have their houses clean. I do everything from Delaware all the way to Chincoteague. And I've never seen it in your association documents here. You guys should be doing something, because I get homeowners coming to me. I really don't work too much in Ocean Pines, but they'll come to me and say, well, how much is your bit? How much you do my house for? And I'll say, 400. Oh God, that's too much money. I can get a kid down the street for $200. Okay, well, he doesn't have a license, he doesn't have insurance, and he's going to shoot bleach at your house. You shoot bleach at one of these houses around here, the water goes down inside the ground and it goes out into the channel or into the bay. Ocean City's a fanatic on that. Okay, so if you can do it, go ahead and do it, because very rarely do I do houses around here. But this is ridiculous. You guys ought to be on this. Okay, and these homeowners, they'll come to me and say, oh God, yeah, I can get this guy. And then there's bare wires on the outside of a building and they'll shoot it with bleach. And they'll think, oh, that's okay. And then they'll come to me and say, well, you know, it shorted out my whole electrical system. I'll say, okay, all right, I'm not involved with it. So I just think sometimes a nice guy doesn't always win the ball game. Sometimes you got to play hardball with these homeowners. And I really don't want to work for a lot of them, because they'll come to me and say, well, I wanted cheap. I wanted $100. Well, then get somebody else. Don't come to me with it, because I can go anywhere from Dover to Chincoteague. I don't need it. I do 20 shopping centers a year, plus about 10 commercial buildings. I don't use bleach. I don't use it. And a lot of contractors around here, these kids will go buy a $2,000 power washer and blast them. I got a $30,000 piece of equipment on my power. I can soft wash. I can clean anything. But just be careful, okay? That's my opinion. OSHA did come around here one time on me, and they checked me, and I passed it. I got one more minute. That's about it. your grade, you can, around here, I don't know if that's such a good idea to let homeowners build grade decks without a permit. Now, if you guys want to do that, that's up to you, but you can go around here and you can build a deck on the outside of a house and never get a permit. I don't know if that's such a good idea because they can come loose. Ocean City, you can't do that. You can't build a deck on the ground in Ocean City unless you get a permit. Now, if you guys want to do it, go ahead and do it, but you've got to cement them down. If a hurricane comes, it'll pick them up and throw them next door and they can hurt somebody, kill somebody. You've got to be able to cement those decks into the ground. And I'll leave you there. But I tried to be nice about it. I was nice about that. Is that pretty good?
You were nice. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. Do you want to respond to any of that, Linda?
Okay, we actually have one on the violation list today for mold. It was an ongoing issue, it's at Pinehurst. We usually start the mold around May 1st. We just allow homeowners this time of year, if we say them for mold, power washing, hooking up a hose when it's, 30 degrees out is not a good idea. So we start them usually around May 1st. As far as the decks, ground level decks, that is in the new guidelines, that anything that is on ground level, including patios, hardscapes, and decks, require a permit now. So that was in the April guidelines. So, yep. So if no one's getting a permit, please let me know and we will go find them.
Thank you, Linda. Anybody else have a public comment? Ma'am, state your name and address, and you're limited to 5 minutes.
Promise to take less than that. My name is Marlene Ott, 1 Warbler Court. A quick question. How many lots does Ocean Pines own?
Go ahead, John.
So we've gone through this even when I was on budget and finance, just, I haven't checked recently. There's somewhere around 20, I believe.
Really? At one point in time, you owned 200.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Oh, yeah, that's from the ocean.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
That's from, yeah.
Right, right.
That's
So
from
these
history.
20 lots,
Okay.
and I believe, and Marlene, I just, over the last 15 years, I know when I was on budget, I thought you were one of them that reviewed these lots. I could be wrong.
I do. I have
They're
a
like
file.
odd lots, and I
Yeah, right.
remember you, and I'm going back 15 years. There, a lot of them,
Okay, just a question.
yeah, they're not buildable or whatever.
Right. And I understand that, what the night terrace or, back there, swamps and they're unbuildable, right? Right.
I've looked at a couple of them, and
right.
Eddie said I could get them cheap. They were like 2 feet of water underneath.
Right, I understand. Well, maybe we can grow eels or something rather. Anyway, I just wanted to thank the board for the support of the History Task Force and to thank them very much for a room of our own. We really appreciate it. And just wanted to bring everybody up to date. We printed a little over 100 of just a regular reprint of the Bud Rogner History of Ocean Pines. It is up at the association. They are going fast, so if you want one, please, more than half of them have been sold. We will have them at the opening day event. And a group of us actually got on television a couple of times. Elaine and myself, and then Jenny Cropper Rhines, and they took them on a grand guided tour of Ocean Pines, and it's really been fun to do. So anybody have any memorabilia you'd like to give us, we'd gladly accept it. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlene.
Stu,
Yes,
I
Elaine?
just want to add, because the TV spot that is going to be upcoming would probably be this Thursday, and it's about our historical group. And I have to tell you, it's just been a lot of fun working with folks in the community who have been here from day one and going through the artifacts. I mean, it's just been a great, fun group. So if you get a chance, I'm not quite sure what time, but we'll get that out in PR as soon as we know exactly when that segment is going to run this.
Thank you, Elaine. Any other public comments? Ma'am, come to the podium, state your name and address. Limited to 5 minutes.
Amy Pack, 109 White Horse Drive. The board packet is filled with leaf violations. For proper drainage, the ditches need to be kept clean, but there is a question regarding leaf maintenance in yards. The primary objective of the ARC guidelines remains to, quote, preserve the natural beauty of ocean pines, end quote. Please note the words natural beauty. The founders of Ocean Pines never intended to mimic manicured communities like Glen Riddle. The majority of our board of directors has yards or condos with very few trees. However, for over a half of a century, Ocean Pines' wooded landscape has always been a defining feature. It attracts residents like myself who value its natural beauty and wildlife. Again, please note the words natural beauty and how that is the primary objective of the ARC guidelines. In January 2024, there was a first reading of the changes to the ARC guidelines, and no red line copy was in the meeting packet. There was no discussion from the board regarding this leaves at this meeting or at the April meeting when the new ARC guidelines were approved. There was zero discussion regarding leaves whatsoever. It's important to note that the DRs trump the ARC guidelines. In order to change the DRs, residents have to vote to change them. In April, the revised guidelines added this sentence very quietly, quote, leaves are not considered to be acceptable ground cover, end quote. Operations has now stated, quote, if you can't see the ground, that's an accumulation of leaves. You have to clean your yard, end quote. But where does this standard come from? The Declaration of Restrictions, which Bruce Bright mentioned, Section 8AL states that, quote, properties must be maintained to avoid being unsightly by reason of unattractive growth or the accumulation of rubbish or debris, end quote. When did leaves become rubbish or debris? Who has made the determination that a natural ground cover of leaves is considered unsightly, but whole yards covered with gravel or store-bought mulch or left bare are okay? Anyone who cares about the environment and sustainability understands the benefits of mulching with leaves and pine needles. Ocean Pines has installed pollinator gardens, so it seems contradictory to penalize homeowners for practices that support the same ecosystem. Environmentally, a ground cover of leaves is beneficial, and certainly to protect the pollinators, leaves should not be removed until temperatures remain in the 50s. Quietly changing the ARC guidelines to add the sentence that leaves are not considered to be acceptable ground cover appears to be an illegal attempt to change the spirit of the DRs that have stood in place for over 50 years. This is not protecting the legacy of Ocean Pines, and it is not a matter that homeowners have voted on. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else having a public comment, please come to the floor. Come on up, state your name and address, and you are also limited to 5 minutes. I'm sorry.
Can
Yeah,
I address
Linda,
the last?
yeah, you can address that.
Resolution MO4 was passed by the Board of Directors December 16th, 2023. It addresses leaves. So I'm not sure where
So
we
that's
were
counter?
finding this.
Okay,
It's on the website. So resolution MO4 does address leaves. The guidelines passed this past year, then enforces MO4 as well.
thank you, Linda. Okay, sir, you're up next. You're limited to 5 minutes. Please state your name and address.
Thank you, sir. Kendall Morey, 114 High Sheriff. I just wanted to give a perspective of 32-year property owner, full and part-time. I love everything you do. I love Ocean Pines. Just from my perspective, early on, every other year is regular as clockwork. Those ditch diggers would come through my neighborhood and clean out the ditches. All the streets. I'm in section 10 now. That hasn't happened in years. They might come if somebody specific complains, but they used to do our whole section because it's a low section. Those ditches needed to be cleaned out. Then a few years ago, Comcast came through the whole community and put in all those cables. Myself and a bunch of other neighbors called. When they left, The banks were terrible. There were big ditches. They were uneven. In my case, Comcast came back out. They did a fair job on my bank, but they didn't clean out the silt. The whole neighborhood, the silt from their operations went into those ditches, and I'm not the only neighbor that called. Those ditches were never cleaned out, the silt. So part of the problem with all these leaves is these ditches aren't cleaned out on a regular basis like they used to. Now, I've seen both sides of the equation. I like the ditches cleaning out, but my neighbor would go out and yell at that poor guy operating the backhoe because he's messing up his yard, because when they clean out those ditches, that dirt's got to go somewhere. So I've seen to both sides of it. We were told for years the ditch in the bank was Ocean Pines property. It was Ocean Pines' problem. I've seen both sides of that too. I'm a walker, 5 miles a day. I saw virtually almost all my neighbors, every leaf in their yard, they'd break out to the bank and expect Ocean Pines to clean it up. So my neighbors abused that. I can see why they felt like they had to change it, but I think something as important as that should have been open to vote in the community instead of just changing it. Personally, within a stone's throw, I got 3 neighbors on Social Security. That's it. They rely on their family, their neighbors. I'm 79 years old with disabled and a bad heart. And this last rain, where we're supposedly going to get 3 inches, every house between mine and where the culvert goes under the street to the main drain, they're part-timers. I had to go down the street and clean out the ditch all the way down. We got to the culvert that goes under the street to the main drain. It was completely blocked. It took me and another neighbor half an hour to clean them out. So I called public service, told them what I did. Eddie, Chris, I'm sorry, he said, hey, don't do that again. You shouldn't be doing that. Call me, we'll come down and do it. Well, they did. And he said, we'll come down and get the leaves cleaned up that we raked out there. And he thanked me for doing it. Well, they did, but the comment, anything that comes out of the ground is yours, anything that falls is ours. The main reason all those leaves got blocked up that culvert is because it's full of branches and vines coming right out of the middle of the ditch, and it just stopped up everything. Well, they cleaned up the leaves. I raked up on the bank. They never cut anything out of the ditches that's catching all those leaves, and they might have plans to come back. I don't know, but he was real nice and he responded. But I think the Ocean Pines just needs to concentrate more on getting these ditches cleaned out like they used to do for years. Every couple of years, clockwork, they'd come down. I haven't seen that in years. And then Comcast really made it bad with all the silt that moved, load into all the ditches. They're not near as deep as they used to be. I thank all of you for your hard work. And
Thank you, Mr.
we
Maury.
don't want to pay higher taxes.
Well, thank you, sir. Anybody else with a public comment? Going once, going twice. I am sold. Come up to the podium, state your name and address, and you are limited to 5 minutes, sir.
Jack Barnes, 16 Newport Drive. John smiles when he mentions leaves. I have a comment more for the homeowners, and it concerns leaves and why they should be also cleaned up in the yards. And if you've watched what's happened in the Carolinas, you've seen these fires. If you were here during our last drought, it was a little scary. I keep a band around my house, and a lot of it isn't the front yard. A lot of us have some woods in the back. And here it is, the end of March, and I'm sure if you're like my TV programs, you see the weather forecast every 30 seconds. We're seeing forecast of 80 degrees already coming shortly. I think that's something to be concerned about. I think like 60% of our homes in Ocean Pines are wooded lots. And I think it behooves everyone to at least be aware of that.
I keep a band around my house, like a cedar shake house, but in the back, you know, the leaves, with the last drought, it was scary. All you need to do is throw a match out. And we have a great fire department here, but I think one of the reasons that to keep these yards cleaned up, should that come and be more of a problem in the future because of the warmer weather we're seeing. We haven't gotten a lot of rain. I think we're almost still in a drought condition here. That behooves the homeowners for their own safety to make sure these leaves are at least cleaned up.
Thank you, sir. Yes, John.
And first of all, I was glad to hear that gentleman with, that wanted the ditches cleaned out, that he did call, because I was going to ask him for his address and we would go over there and look at it, but it sounds like Public Works has been there and I will talk to Public Works. But I do want to mention that that team or the team in Public Works cleaning out the ditches, doing what the gentleman mentioned, that team's still in place and it's been in place. Nothing's changed on that over the years. Now, they did during COVID and even recently have some trouble filling those positions. Not too many people that want those type of positions. We have outsourced it. We're doing the main ones. We will certainly look at that. I will talk to Public Works about the manning of that ditch cleaning team as far as cleaning out the silt and all that. But a lot of what I heard from the gentleman sounded like leaves. And we'll check if there is something growing out of there in that area to see.
Thank you, John. I'm going to close the floor to public comments. We're going to move on to capital requests. John?
Oh, which one's up first? All right, so give a second there. All right, so police vehicle. Requesting authorization to go forward with staff recommendation of 62,812 for Hertrick Fleet Services for a police vehicle.
Do I have a second on the capital request for the police? Do I have a motion for a capital request for a police vehicle? A second. Any discussion? Yes, John.
Is, this was obviously, this is in the budget and.
It's in the
a
budget.
Replacement?
It's in the budget.
Or new?
This one I believe is new.
Perfect. Thank you, John.
We have a schedule on that if anybody wants it for the whole 15.
Any other discussion? I'll call in question. All in favor of going forth with purchase of a police vehicle, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or any abstentions? Motion passes. Moving forward.
Yeah. Bulkhead replacement. We have two years. Mentioned this earlier, how we're trying to, and we've had success with this, purchase the material, keep it in our yard to avoid any tariffs or any other price increases. And we do have a vendor who has been a preferred vendor willing to do this work with us. So requesting authorization to go forward with staff recommendation of $675,000 per year, 2 different years, 2 different contracts for Fish and Marine, 25-26 and the 26-27 fiscal year.
Do I have a motion to go forward for Public Works for the purchase of the materials for our bulkhead replacement? Do I have a motion? Second? Any discussion? Steve?
Thanks, Stuart. I have a question. In the general manager's report, as I recall, there was a dealing with the clubhouse and border links and golf course bulkhead replacement. Is that in addition? My recollection is we do a certain amount of mileage or
Linear feet, Steve.
linear foot. Okay, so certain amount of linear feet per year. So my question is the indication in the general manager report dealing with clubhouse side bulkheads and border links and golf course bulkheads in addition to?
No, this is our 1,500 to 2,000 linear feet per year.
Okay, so.
All part of the 90,000 linear feet we have.
Okay, so this is in our 50-year replacement.
Correct.
They're now due.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, that's the ones right over there.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing no further discussion, I call in question requesting authorization to go forward with staff recommendation of $675,000 for 2 individual years per year for Fish and Marine. All in favor? Any opposed or abstentions? Motion carries. Capital request number 3 for our bocce ball courts. John?
Okay, thanks, Stuart. Bocce ball courts, requesting authorization to go forward with staff recommendation of $50,692 to Southwest Greens Delaware Valley contractor to build the 2 bocce courts.
Do I have a motion to approve the capital request for a bocce ball court? Okay, any second? Any discussion? Steve?
Another question.
Go right ahead.
In the board packet, we received, if I read this correctly, estimates for synthetic courts and for natural court construction. Which or are we doing? Or are we doing one of each or?
So I actually have examples in my office, of the one we picked. Mike, you want to jump up and just tell them the specifics? But I have it if you want to see it, Steve. Go ahead, Mike.
Mike, step to the podium, please.
Mike Galello, 1106 Stones Run. The 2 courts that we're proposing to build are synthetic.
Okay.
Okay, with drainage underneath of it, and what's there right now isn't being drained. So that's, short life cycling it. So what we're doing is we're doing it right so that we have 10 years
More.
on this court before it even needs maintenance. And that's the advantage going synthetic versus natural. Natural, you need constant maintenance to it. You need to roll it. So the synthetic is where we need to be.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Call a question.
Wait, I got
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
the question.
Go ahead, Steve. Sorry about that.
Again, in the board packet, there are revenue projections dealing with registration fees and food and beverage.
Right.
And I'm assuming that is an indication of, because John, you indicated in your general manager's report that this investment would eventually pay for itself.
It will pay.
Right.
Go ahead. I'll finish your question.
And so I'm assuming that what you're showing us in the board packet is by a certain fiscal year, we will have paid for the investment on the 2 bocce balls.
Correct. I wouldn't bring it forward without it. So there are 2 parts to it, and you're right, and it was broken out both ways. I'm only going forward with, just like I did with the T-Docs, telling you how much it cost. With his memberships and everything, the projection of 100 members, which is more than platform tennis, they will break even and pay for everything somewhere around the 6th year, 7th year. That's without the ancillary income. I don't want to sit here and be subjective on it. I will update over the years on what we believe in working with the food and beverage, what we believe the ancillary income from having them there at the yacht club and what they purchase at the yacht clubs. So that is factored in. If we did that, it would probably only be 2 years or whatever.
Thank you.
But I didn't include that for this.
No more questions.
Seeing no more questions, I call in question authorization to go forward with staff recommendation of $50,692 Southwest Greens, Delaware Valley for our brand new bocce ball courts. All in, do I have a motion? Do I have a second? We did all right, now we all vote. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next recommendation, next capital request, John, for the community center gym floor.
We got that one. Why don't you do it? Okay, community center gym floor, as discussed before, requesting authorization to go forward with staff recommendation of $62,300 to Dynamic Sports Construction for the new gym floor, as explained by Debbie.
Okay, I call in question, do I have a motion to go forward with the capital request for the community center gym floor? Do I have a second? Steve, is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I call in question, all in favor of the request to authorize staff recommendation of $62,300 for Dynamic Sports Construction for our brand new community center gym floor? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you, Ocean Pines. Thank you,
Thank you.
board.
We're going to move forward with CPI violations. Linda?
Okay, I'm breaking these out into two. All these have received the first and second notice. We're requesting the recommendation for the violations to legal and suspend voting and amenity rights. 16 Canal Road, 44 Pinehurst Road, 21 Rabbit Run Lane, 2 Yeoman Court, 26 Moby Dick Drive, 38 Cresthaven Drive, 38 Robin Hood Trail, and 35 Fairway Lane.
Okay, I'm going to move these as a group. Do I have a motion to move to legal? Do I have a second? Discussion? John?
The address that has the 3 in parentheses, does that mean they have 3 violations?
They had 3 violations. Actually, that's 2 because one of them is actually on the next list I'm going to give you. So that was my typo. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, I call on question to move these CPI violations and to suspend the amenity rights for those mentioned properties to legal. All in favor, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Bruce. The motion is to move to legal and suspend the amenity rights and suspend voting rights for the properties that were mentioned by Linda. All in favor? Any opposed or abstentions? Those properties have been suspended their amenity rights and voting rights and have been moved to legal. Moving forward, Linda?
Okay, the following, we're asking for approval to have a contractor resolve. 173 Ocean Parkway, 183 Ocean Parkway, 172 Ocean Parkway, 182 Ocean Parkway, 51 Ocean Parkway, 97 Pinehurst Road, 56 Duck Cove Circle, 4 Pelican Court, 10 Wharf Court, 21 Rabbit Run Lane, 35 Bird Nest Drive, 47 Falcon Bridge Road, 39 Falcon Bridge Road, 13 Tail of the Fox Drive, 35 Tail of the Fox Drive, 716 Ocean Parkway, 834 Ocean Parkway, 850 Ocean Parkway, 1086 Ocean Parkway, 38 Robin Hood Trail, 851 Ocean Parkway, and 1197 Ocean Parkway.
Wow. Do I have a motion to suspend voting rights and amenity rights for those?
No, none
Oh.
of those.
Okay, do I have a motion to hire a contractor to alleviate those violations on the properties that Linda mentioned? Do I have a second? Any discussion? Steve?
Thank you. Linda, can you explain to us what steps have been taken prior to, or maybe Bruce does, I don't want to, you guys can decide among yourselves. What steps have been taken prior to having the contractor step in? In other words, and correctly so, Linda, you started earlier in the meeting, you know, if you have a problem, call us. Well, you need an extension, we can give you an extension. So what I'm trying to figure out is we're now at the point of having the contractor resolve these matters. Can you give us, not property by property, but some sense as to how much discussion has been going on to get these issues resolved?
In all these cases, actually, we never heard back from the owner. We sent a first notice, no response. We sent a second notice, no response. And per resolution MO4, that's when we're allowed to enter the property to maintain it.
Yeah.
I think 2 weeks apart or, yeah. So owners have been getting more notice than they're actually entitled to under MO4.
And just to be clear, these are not properties that we have referred to legal. Is that
Correct? Correct. This is just to
Just
hire
to
the
approve a
contractor,
contractor,
get
go
the
out,
work
clean it.
done, and then that charge winds up on their assessment bill.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, do I have a motion to approve to have a contractor resolve the issues on the previously mentioned properties. Do I have a second? Everybody does say. I'm not really good with Robert's rules, it would appear. All in favor of having a contractor resolve these issues on the aforementioned properties, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Motion carries. No unfinished business. We're going to move further to new business. And we're going to have Rob Kiesling from the Strategic Planning Committee give a report on his strategic planning survey results. Rob.
What's my time limit, Stuart? Do I have one?
2.5 minutes. No.
Well, I think I demonstrated at the executive council meeting the other evening, I have a penchant for brevity. Listen more, talk less. So I will be brief. But good morning, everyone. As introduced, my name is Rob Kiesling, and I am the the current chairperson of the Strategic Planning Committee. I want to start out by just saying a few thank yous. Certainly to our board liaison, Stuart. Appreciate your support, and along with that of staff, Mr. Viola, and especially a big thank you to Josh Davis in the marketing department who helped us with some of the technical things that we had to deal with and some of our messaging. But also want to recognize the members of our committee, Helen Johnson, whose term just recently expired, Gary Miller, Fred Steele, John Lynch, Wes Blakesley, Jerry Murphy, and our newest member, Terry O'Dari, for their dedication and their volunteering of their time. And also, there were a couple of past members, because this was a fairly lengthy project. I want to recognize Bernie McGorry, Jenny Cropper-Rhines, and Becky Colt-Ferguson, who had kind of laid the groundwork for what we did. And if I did leave out anyone, I apologize. It was not my intent. And also a big thank you to Linda Yerchi and the Communications Committee, because they helped us with the messaging. If you want to flip the slide there, agenda, and I'm not going to read for you guys. You can see that. I do want to hit a couple slides. There we go. Thank you, Linda, on our mission. Pretty straightforward. I highlighted in there anticipating future needs. And since I've been a part of this committee, which is going on 6 years now, it has been our belief that a key element in helping us in that effort to anticipate future needs is to take the pulse of the people at least once every 3 to 5 years. One of my favorite movie quotes comes from the movie Draft Day, which is kind of apropos since NFL draft is right around the corner. But Kevin Costner was the star there, and he says, "We live in a different world right now than we did 5 minutes ago." And that's certainly true. Ocean Pines has new residents. We have new board members. The landscape changes. So again, we feel it's just very vital to once every periodic basis, every 3 to 5 years, to go through this effort and get to hear the voice of the people. And when you see, as we move forward into some of the data, there's a lot of consistency from what we found in the 2021 survey, but we've learned some new things as well. Next slide, please. And again, functions, pretty straightforward there. Again, anticipating, there we go, you got it. I think I highlighted something there about soliciting information. And I do want to pontificate a little bit on that here as well. Statistically speaking, and well, actually, go ahead and flip the slide, Linda, if you would. Oh, here we go. So here's the number of responses we got. Were they full-time residents, part-time? You can see the numbers there. I do want to point out that last bullet point there as well, that 41% indicated that they did not respond or not participate in our survey 3 years ago. So that's new voices that we have heard. And again, back to my comment a moment ago, we live in a different world. But statistically speaking, our response rate is probably pretty decent. But it's not lost on this committee that there's still a large percentage of our community whose voices we have not heard from. And there could be any multitude of reasons of why that's the case. But in research, a sampling, by definition, is the process of getting input from a subset of the population to draw inferences about the whole population. So no doubt there's margin of error here. And it's also fair to say that the intel we gathered isn't necessarily gospel, but I respectfully submit that what we've gathered here is relevant data, and it's been gathered in a very efficient, focused, cost-effective, virtually no cost manner, and does in fact represent the voice of the people. So we're going to get into some of the details now, and let me point out that this is just a summary. if anybody is interested in the whole full package of data, we can make that available. And I'm here just to report. I'm just reporting what was shared with us as folks submitted their responses to the survey. No editorial commenting going on. Okay, overall satisfaction. Pretty good news here, but it does indicate that there's still, 20% or so of the population that is less than satisfied. And in our mind, that represents some opportunity, and I'll talk about opportunity a little bit later. Next slide, please. This just asked how likely you would be to recommend Ocean Pines to a friend or colleague. My PowerPoint skills are somewhat limited. The actual number that's represented on the graph is 84, and that's very consistent with the last time. I think the number was 83 in 2021. Next slide, please, Linda. The 5 most important issues, and this is what was the top 5. Again, consistent with 2021. And what you see here, if you consider a 1 to 5 star rating, this represents everything that's 3 stars, 3 or 2 stars and above. Very consistent in what's very important. And as we've listened to some of the other comments today and other reports, community appearance, safety, these are all things that are very, very vital to the success and the word I'm looking for, attractability of Ocean Pines. Next slide, please. So those are the important issues. Well, how are we doing in terms of meeting those expectations? Pretty consistent from 2021 as well. I would like to point out though that safety dropped a little bit. I don't have the exact number on top of my head, but it was over 90% in 2021. And customer service went up. And I think that's a credit to Linda. And we talked about some things earlier in the meeting today. So again, kudos to you and your team for being responsive. Next slide. Now this one's a little bit different. New, I guess I should say. In 2021, we asked the community if it was important to include a set of core values in the overall community strategic plan and in the fabric of the governing documents. There was overwhelming support for that, and to the credit of the board, they did. So this year, the question was essentially what I like to refer to as just our first term report card. How are we doing? And again, you guys can read the numbers there. And again, looking on the 1 to 5 star rating, those percentages represents 3 stars and above. In my mind, there is opportunity to address here. And again, I'll talk about opportunity in just a moment. Next slide. And we just asked folks to rate the importance of the number of challenges. We had a list of 9, I believe it was. So this is the top 5 responses. Again, very consistent with what we saw 3 years ago. Next slide. Rate your level of agreement. We had a list of 11 statements, and these were the top 5. Again, some things we've heard before. Investing in improving existing amenities, that's been a consistent, and I think credit to the leadership of this community and the board for some of the things that they've taken action on. The expansion of the tiki bar, the irrigation system that was talked about earlier today, upgrades to the beach club, just to mention a few. Next slide. Interest in new or improved amenities. Consistent on that, improved cell phone service and internet access actually jumped to the top of the list. And I was glad to hear the chief talk about that earlier today, that's certainly being addressed. And clearly, I think that's a concern for the community. Next slide. Lastly, we asked a narrative question. If there was any one thing you could do in the next 3 to 5 years, what would it be? The printout on that from the survey tool was in excess of 40 pages. So with a little help from some technology and just plain old investigative work from the committee, these were the top vote getters. That's not all the list, but these were the top vote getters. Improving street lighting, just some suggestions that came through there about how to do it, where to do it. Enhancement of the beach club. Next slide. Fitness center, I know that's been talked about before and you know, whether that's even feasible remains to be determined, but it is still something that's top of mind for the community based on the response here. And then lastly, enforcement of property covenants. Heard some talk about that already this morning. And again, compliment the board for staff enhancements. I forget the gentleman's name that's been brought on board, but you guys have addressed that, but we think there might be more work to be done. Next slide. So what do we do from here? We've gathered all this data. We spent the early part of this year, first couple meetings, just kind of dissecting it to develop, you know, these summary slides. Next thing we're going to do is identify the specific opportunities. And I'm just listing some here. There may be more. From there, next slide. Once we've identified them, then start talking about developing strategies to address these issues. What can we do about it? Some of the things we might be doing, forming focus groups. One of the things we talked about at our executive council meeting the other night that I'm certainly an advocate for is collaboration with the other committees. I've had the opportunity to meet a few of the other committee chairs, and I'd like to engage with them more. And then something we did a few years ago is just benchmarking with other similar quote unquote resort communities. You know, perhaps we can adopt some best practices elsewhere that might help us as we move forward. And I think that's it.
Does anybody have any questions for Rob on the strategic planning survey results? Yes, ma'am. I'm suspending Robert's rules. Go ahead, ma'am.
And back to the point I made earlier on about not the voice not being heard. We advertised it. It was in the Ocean Pines weekly report. It was an electronic version. It was in the press. I was interviewed by at least 2 written publications. I even was interviewed by a local TV outlet.
It also went out in a blast email to
Yeah.
every homeowner in Ocean Pines that we have
you.
an email on.
Yeah.
Make sure your email address is correct with our admin. This is how we kind of communicate with you. Anybody else want to address anything for Mr. Kiesling? Yeah, okay, John?
Rob, thank you. I appreciate it because I've listened in kind of from the side on all the work, and I know you guys work really hard, so certainly we appreciate that. I think you had kind of mentioned it, which was kind of what this question's about, and I'm going to give a little plug to the elections committee because that's coming up. We want to make sure that that information, as Stuart has mentioned, that Ocean Pines has your latest email, your address, and also once we go, because once that election process starts as well, in addition to the surveys, we need to have the right information or folks will not get that. So even if you're in question, maybe you want to check with Ocean Pines just to make sure if your email's changed or your address changed or you have something forwarded, we want to make sure that we do that. And we'll continue working with as far as the communications out to make sure folks are doing that. So.
And for those of you who did let your voice be heard and fill out the survey, thank you. We appreciate it. All right.
Okay, I'm going to reinstate Robert's rules. Thank you, Rob. Moving on to the historic task group update. Elaine?
I'll be very quick and I'll go, I guess, directly from historic to electronic signs since that's up next. Just a quick update on the historic group. We talked about that earlier. But we do have a dedicated room. Before we had collected an awful lot of memorabilia and things from the earliest days during the 50th anniversary. And it was in closets. And we finally decided, it's time to get it out there, figure out ways to display it, ask others that may have been around for a long time or have interesting things to start donating them, because we now have a room in the admin building to be able to collect all of that stuff. Our hardworking group, especially, I want to, all of them are fabulous, but both Marlene and Jenny Rhines, who have been in this community forever, have been a huge help. Marlene in getting the Rogner book reprinted, and Jenny and several others have been working very hard in cataloging everything, organizing it. It helps to have the room to be able to do that. So we'll continue to have you updated. Please, look, if you want to get the historic book by Rogner. We have copies still. We're actually going to do a second reprint because the first reprint went pretty fast. End goal on that is we'll probably do a coffee table book at some point. But that's down the road. Anyway, it's a fun committee and we're trying to preserve all of that. So if any of you have something you'd like to donate, please get in touch. On to the electronic signs. Many of you have probably noticed down the medians, a lot of those old messaging signs have been removed. That was because the county never allowed those. They were put up. And when we made a change to our signage, they're expecting us to clean up the medians. We're in that vein, we are asking clubs and organizations to stop putting out what they call snipe signs, those temporary signs. They clutter up our roadways. They're not allowed. You can't put them on the medians. You can't put them on the easements. And truthfully, our community looks junked up when you start doing that. The ones that are allowed in our DR, so that you understand, open houses, day of open houses, yard sales, day of yard sales. The other thing, and I think we probably will talk about adding to the ARC document, which wasn't covered, is a day of an event, because I know when there's events down at the Veterans Memorial or other places, there needs to be signs as to where parking and that kind of stuff is, or of the event itself, and that's fine. They can be up day of, they must be taken down same day. Otherwise our community just kind of looks like a cluttered mess as you drive down the parkway, and we've done a lot this year. The chief removed over 80 signs that were not needed along our parkway, and we'll be removing all the rest of the signage that's not allowed by the county down the parkway as well. So that's where we stand with those two items.
Oh, thank you very much, Elaine. I'm going to go around to the front. Our good neighbor board. Elaine, if you'll join me. Our good neighbor award that we've started to recognize some of our neighbors that have done outstanding volunteer efforts in our community. So this is a commendation, whereas the Ocean Pines Good Neighbor Program seeks to recognize and celebrate individuals who embody the spirit of kindness, generosity, and community service in Ocean Pines. And whereas Rob and Kay Lembeck have exemplified these values through their tireless efforts to support those in need. And whereas Rob and Kay's thoughtfulness shines through in countless acts of kindness, from collecting mail, shoveling snow for neighbors in need, to mailing bills and offering assistance during difficult times. And whereas their dedication extends to maintaining the beauty of the community by organizing and planting flowers in the park and pond area, enhancing the neighborhood's charm and appeal. And whereas Kay's heartfelt tradition of baking cookies for neighborhood children and visiting grandchildren and others has brought warmth and joy to many, while Rob's willingness to lend a hand and offer guidance on home and auto-related matters reflects his commitment to being a reliable and trusted friend to all. Now, therefore, it is proclaimed by the Ocean Pines Board of Directors that we recognize and commend Rob and Kay Lembeck for their unwavering dedication, kindness, and generosity that exemplify the spirit of an Ocean Pines good neighbor. We extend the heartfelt appreciation to Rob and Kay for the remarkable contributions to the point and for making Ocean Pines a better place to call home. Executed under the seal of Ocean Pines Association this 29th day of March 2025. And Elaine's going to take this commendation and make sure that they get it.
Yes, unfortunately, they were not able to attend today, so we will make sure that they get this.
The Good Neighbor Award is just one of the many ways that we try to honor some of the people making a difference in Ocean Pines. Going forward, we're going to go to appointments. We're going to do this as a group. The appointments of Patricia Benner for the third term Environmental and Natural Assets, Frank Brown, second term and chair of the Golf Committee, William Lahner, third term Golf, Bob Long, third term Golf, John Mazik, third term Environmental and Natural Assets, and Don McMullen, third term Golf. Do I have a motion to accept these candidates' appointments? And do I have a second? Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I call in question. All in favor of appointing these people to our committees, say aye. Any opposed or abstentions? The motion passes, and congratulations to their appointment. Thank you for your volunteer efforts. And now we come to the most important motion of the entire meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn today's meeting? Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Do I have any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I call in question. All in favor of adjourning today's meeting, say aye. Anybody opposed or abstain? This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.